So good afternoon, Adam. Thanks so much for taking the time out to get involved in our business owner spotlight. Do you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself to everybody and let us know a bit about what you do?
Yeah, of course. Hi, Scott. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on. My name's Adam Falkner, and I run a creative company called Creative AF, which it's a double entendre. It is yes, it's named for the kind of more expletive term, but it is also they're also my initials, so I can kind of get away with that. But when I say creative company, I mean I produce, create video content for brands and businesses. But the niche that I have is I'm a big audiophile, and I love making music, and I believe that the power of sound should be used more effectively in advertising and marketing. So a lot of the sound and the music that I make for projects is bespoke, and that's one of the things that makes me stand out from other people.
Cool. So do you do the whole one-stop shop where there would be the video and the sound, or would you collaborate with a video creator and add the more effective sound?
I can do everything.
Okay.
Which is one of my, when you start a business, you think, what are you good at? And I can do both of those things. So often they get kind of separated, which is fine. There's a lot of video production companies, and there's a lot of musicians, or composers, if you will. Whereas I like to do both of those things. So I kind of brought it together under one roof to kind of almost create one company where there's probably two. But I also collaborate with a lot of, certainly on the audio side of things, because I think I like to collaborate with people, and when you're being creative, I think people can make different things that you can, and it can be a bit more authentic. For example, if I was going to work on a client in Ireland, which I'm very new to, I'm not particularly versed at making Irish music. Okay. So I would want to collaborate, or at least work with people who are good at making that kind of music, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so who would be your kind of ideal client? Who would you try and sell to, or where would your niche be?
To be honest with you, Scott, I love working with all industries. I know that's a bit of a cop out, but people have said, in business, people say you should have a niche.
Yeah.
I don't want to, because I enjoy having a window into like lots of different worlds, lots of different sectors and industries. So across the 2.5 years that I've had, since I had my business, I've worked with a lot of different industries, from, I don't know, food and drink, sports, lifestyle, charities, lots of different ones. And I like it that way. Like, I actually used to be a journalist and a TV producer, so making documentaries. So I enjoy, I enjoy meeting and documenting people's lives. So it would be silly for me to just work, in one sector. So I don't really have an ideal client. I like making things. I like meeting people. I like documenting those things. So, I think if you ask me who would be my ideal client, it's like I have huge respect for a company like Apple, because I think it's not just the products that they make, but it's like the innovation behind how they show them. And they've basically created an incredible community and lifestyle choice, which goes far beyond the product. So I aim pretty high, as you can understand. Stuff.
Fair enough. Why not? Yeah. And who would not want to work with Apple? Absolutely. So you said going 2.5 years. Question to ask everybody is: has COVID had an impact on your business, and did it help or hinder or accelerate your business in any way?
To be honest with you, Scott, I decided to start this business 2 weeks before the first lockdown. So I was very, I was very ready and up for starting a business. Not that I had like lots of money behind me. I just always wanted to work for myself, and I was quite pumped and excited about it. And then everyone got told, stay at home, and understandably, it was a really difficult time. Don't need to get into that, but so if you're asking me in reference to COVID, it didn't exist. So I built it in that time. So for a long time, that was all I knew.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything to compare it to. Of course, I had a life before that,
Sure.
you know, where I worked for different companies in the media world, but that I couldn't compare the two because they're different. So
Yeah.
really, I didn't lose anything. I had nothing to lose because I was
Yeah.
literally building it from nothing. So if anything, I found it more unusual when you're allowed to
Open up.
you know, open up, go out, interact in that way. Because to be honest, if you make creative content, you need to be around, I don't know, people and environments. And when you're at home, there's not as much opportunity for that. But I believe actually when you're restricted, you can actually be pretty creative. When I was at home at that time, I actually got clients by just making content at home for them. So for example, my first client was a gin company called Sipsmith in London, and I got that because me and my housemate, who was a mixologist, we built a bar in the garden out of wood that we found around the local area in Manchester, and it led to us working with them. So it can happen. You can do stuff. It's just that was the time, that was the zeitgeist, that was all you could do. You couldn't make content about people, for example, being on holiday when everyone had to stay at home. It doesn't work. So everything had to be, we're at home and we're doing this and that. So for a long time, I did that. So I built, I basically just made content for lots of different, mainly food and drink brands at home because I knew how to do that at home. And so when things were opened up and you could, you know, travel around and do more stuff, that was quite confusing to me. Not so much now, obviously, but for a while I was like, oh, what, we can go over there? Like I just you know, be around people. It was so it was quite pivotal, really. A really pivotal time.
I mean, it did probably force you to find a little bit of a niche there, you know, just because you could create that content. And I think it's really interesting that you just sort of showcase what you could do to pull clients in then.
Well, I didn't have the thing is I didn't have any clients and I didn't have a portfolio because so I didn't have any. It's not like I left a job and then took all these clients with me. So I didn't really have that. So I had to make it. But I to be honest with you, like one of my strengths, and I know them to be this, I believe this is, I love making things, like being creative, but I'm also like quite savvy and when it comes to people skills. So I know, having been a journalist, I don't really have an issue with trying to get in touch with anyone, and it doesn't bother me if they say no to me because I'll just go, right, okay, fine. But at least at least you push to get that no, rather than just being like, they won't be interested in speaking to me or they won't want that. And sometimes they don't want to speak to you. Sometimes if you don't give them the opportunity,
you'll never know.
They know they're obviously it's obviously a no. So that tenacity from being a national newspaper journalist actually helps me quite a lot because I just think, well, they can say no. That's literally the worst thing that they can do. So
and you can handle that. So what have you learned about yourself then since you've been in business?
I have learned that this is what I'm supposed to do. My mum and dad used to run their own business, so I've grown up around it. It's not without its stresses and strains. I think I don't go around telling everyone that they should run their own business because I don't think they should. You know, I think there's some real pros and cons to it. But one thing I have learned is that this lifestyle suits me. It's because the opportunity and, you know, destination is not set. You can just, I believe, you know, it's that whole like opportunity, you know, is everything. You can always make more of it. You know, some days you don't feel like you're making that much of it, but other days you just feel like the sky's the limit. And I love that because you're not restricted. Like, well, that's your ceiling. You just, it could be whatever you want it to be, and you do get out what you put in. So that's, you know, it's a bit different when you work for someone because it's more, there's parameters about how much you work in terms of time, how much you get paid, what your role is. Like, you don't really, whereas when you're, you know, everything, you can just, as in every role, and you're dictating where it goes. Obviously you need a bit of luck along the way, but I find that the journey and is great, and it gives you such a purpose, I think, every single day.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's that sort of freedom and liberty that appeals to you. Then, you know, as you say, there's no boundaries set.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Like the you know, look, there are boundaries, of course, but you know, and it doesn't come without its challenges. But since I've started doing this, I feel like it's more like a part of my life rather than it being like I live here and I work here and this is my free time. It all seems to just, because you think about it all the time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I enjoy thinking about it because I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Maybe I could make that happen rather than just being like, oh, just put work to one side. I mean, you have to give yourself, you know.
Yeah, but you're invested in it, and it's part of you then.
Yeah. It's like it genuinely feels like a part of you rather than like, oh, it's just work. Do you know what I mean? It
sounds amazing.
Yeah, and you take such great pride in it, and you feel the highs more and you feel the lows more. But I think you just feel very connected to what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, and so we talked about COVID, and you know, we obviously set the business up within that time. But if you leave that aside, what would you say the main challenges you've had to overcome that weren't related to COVID?
I think, as I said, because I started it in a position of I didn't have any clients, I didn't have a portfolio, and if truth be told, I didn't really have very much money because I'd actually been away traveling for a long time on my bicycle. I basically cycled from London to Tokyo in Japan. So I spent a lot of time and all my money really. I say all my money, just not like loads, but it's not a very expensive pursuit. But I'd flush that out and having that experience. And so I was really starting from zero, because not zero like I had no life experience. I had life experience and I had work experience. But when you're trying to work in like marketing and advertising, but your whole life you've been a journalist and a TV producer, it's not relevant. It's relevant, but when you tell people, they don't believe you because you haven't got the reputation in that industry. So that was a really difficult challenge. But once you start getting what I like to call hype, and people trust you, then that you overcome that challenge, and all that happens is it just starts edging up, and bigger clients trust you. You get bigger projects, you know. So, and I think you know that kind of has happened over time. I think running it on your own without, say, a co-founder or any staff. Not that I don't have any staff. I don't have a co-founder. That can be, not having someone to hold you to account is probably a big challenge, because you're just, every decision you make is yours. So that's a good thing. It's positive, but it's also like no one's going to call you out and say, I don't think we should do that, or I think we should do this. It's all on you. So you can either see that as it's a positive and a negative. And then more recently, because I've moved to Belfast from Manchester, which is obviously a different country. I know it's part of the UK, but it doesn't massively fit. It feels like a different country to me, which it is. And I respect that. And there's a different culture, there's different people, it's a different way of working. Everything's kind of similar, but it's not. So it's you know, that's my most recent challenge, which is I live in Belfast. I've lived here for 3 months. At the moment, all my clients, projects, you know, it's all in England. So it's trying to basically start again in a new place. And that the reason I'm here is because of my partner, who got a new job, and I decided that I would come with her because I love an adventure. And so it's a challenge and an adventure at the same time.
So I can't let the Tokyo cycle slide. I need to know a little bit more about that. I mean, how many miles is that? Like, how far did you actually cycle?
It was about, I mean, I don't have the exact number, but I know it was about,
take it to the nearest 1,000.
17,000.
Seriously?
And you're not flying, are you? So you're basically going, think about a very wiggly route. It's not the most direct. You know, I don't know. I think it's like maybe 6,000-7,000 miles if you fly, but obviously you're going like this, you know. So you know, it's, and obviously like you end up going it's obviously the long way around and the slower way around. But it was 2018 and 2019. It was best thing I've ever done in my life. You know.
And did you learn anything on that trip? I'm sure you did, that has stood you well in your business journey then?
I learned, yes, actually, that's a good question. I learned that if you want to do something, like truly want to do something, you shouldn't hesitate to do it. You should just do it. Like, and don't wait for what you're waiting for, and don't wait for people's approval or do things to appease other people. Like, you know, it was a really valuable, like, this is quite a scary thing to do. It's a brilliant adventure, but it's also like, you know, you're quitting this job and this life and etc. I mean, I left London on a bike, and I lived there for 8 years, and I haven't gone back to. I've been back to visit, but I haven't gone back. I literally left on a bike, and I've just not gone back. And it's funny how your life can just go off in different directions. Now I live in Belfast. It's like, I don't know, and I just think, when I want to do something now, I just do it. Like, I don't think, shall I do that? Are people going to think that? I don't really care. That's the point. But if I don't want to do something, I won't do it. I don't have to do things. So the hesitancy in making decisions is it's not there. But also, you just, you know, I'm not saying everyone should do that, go and cycle to Japan, but I just think, like, I met a lot of people out there who actually were cycling, like, similar, you know, long distances. I met people in their 70s. I met a family with 2 kids, you know, from Switzerland, and they had a 4 and a 5-year-old and with them. And when people go, well, I could never do that, I'm like, well, you could, you just don't want to. That's okay. You don't have to do it, but there must be something else. Climb the mountain that you want to climb. Because being old and having kids is not an excuse, because I've seen people do it. So it's because they want to do it, you know. So it's that thing where it's just like taking ownership of the things that you want to do and just do them. And it's funny how not that long after I got back from that, I'd started a business. So, because I wanted to.
There you go. So, there's a lot, you know, if you think it's important enough, you'll find a way. And if you don't think it's important, you find an excuse, sort of thing.
I think it's the comparison of, like, well, I couldn't do that. It's like, yeah, but you don't have to do that. Just do what you want to do.
Yeah, find your mountain.
But climb your own mountain. It doesn't have to be physical. Like that physical, it could be something else. But I think people hide behind, you know, it's a wider conversation, but I think people can hide behind, like, oh, if you don't want to do something, that's fine. You don't have to do anything.
But I think you know, climb your own mountain, make quick decisions, all very relevant in business.
Yeah, no, I think I genuinely wouldn't have started a business before doing that trip. I'm not saying I went away with the you know, ambition of coming back and doing that, but I don't know, it's changed me, but like in some ways that I never really, I was in a much better position to do this, and obviously over 2.5 years of having a business, I just find it like, it was a really good driver to get me to this. It's probably always in me, but I never really
sort of unlock it for you.
Yeah.
So, have you picked up any quotes or sayings that you lean on, or anything that inspires you?
I don't really. I say I make up my own quotes. I'm not really. It's not like I have these people's quotes in my head, but like I do subscribe to, you know, a lot of the wisdom of, like, things like, you know, I don't really want these to be quotes. I'm just saying this is the sentiment of what I mean.
It's like a philosophy.
You know, like, you know, it's that whole, like, you don't know if you don't try, and you know, people can only say no. I really believe that. So, well, if you what people do, and I used to do it more, is people decide that something's not going to happen before they've even tried to make it happen. If it might not happen, but like, at least try. You know, and I think that kind of mentality is certainly for business is really useful. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
it's making me think of the Henry Ford one. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you'll always be right.
Yeah, exactly. I think just deciding that something's not going to happen before you've even tried is a very silly way to be. But I understand people are scared of putting themselves out there. I get that, or that, you know, they're scared of rejection or whatever. But like, I don't know. It's like, I'm not saying I want to be rejected, but like, you do learn from it. You're like, why has that not happened? And you know, you can be, you know, don't blame other people for it. It's just the way it is. You know, it's like, you know, I think, I don't know. I do believe in that. Like, you really should. It's about making the most of your life, you know, that you possibly can, and actually turning those no's into yeses is such a good thing to do. They mean so much more to you when it's like things are just handed to you. Like, it doesn't. I'm not saying that's not nice.
No, of course,
Someone coming to me going, yeah, exactly. Someone coming to me and going, oh, I'd like to work with you. It's like, great, that's really nice. But sometimes you like, I always say this about leads. It's like, people are always like, you know, inbound leads. You have to work extremely hard to get inbound leads. They don't just come to you. That's what I'm trying to say about, I had no clients and I didn't have a portfolio. So like, no, how are you supposed to get an inbound lead with that? You're not going to get one. But over years, you know, I'm not saying they've only just started happening, but what I mean is, you over the, you know, a few years, you harness, and you know, the power of what you can do, and then it kind of starts materializing, and it's great. But I'm not
perpetual after that then.
Yeah, of course it is, but that's not what I rely on. I will just, if I want to work with someone, I'll go, right, how do I, what's the best, like, I want to work with someone, but they don't know they want to work with me. I'll just be like, right, okay, how do I do that? I'm not going to go and ask. But I think asking someone, oh, can I work with you, is not really, certainly for a creative is not a really very creative way of doing that. You know, going, oh, hi, can I work with you? It's like, it's better to ask that than nothing. But my point is, how do you get people's attention, and what is it that you're doing, and stuff? And sometimes it's all right to ask politely, and other times it's like, you know, show them. You know, and so that's kind of why I mentioned before, like, I have, you know, it's not like I have this picture up in an office of like Apple, but I'm like, it's like up there. So that's what I'm working towards. It might not be today, or tomorrow, but that's what I'm like, right, this is what I'm going to do. So I just keep thinking, okay, who am I actually working with? Who do I want to work with? It's not that I'm working with people I don't want to work with. My point is about inbound leads and, say, outbound leads. I don't know. It's like you going to get them rather than you waiting for them to come to you. You know.
And you know, that'll be on your sort of radar, that, you know, you want to get the apple, so you'll be taking subconscious steps to work with the right people to get there. Yeah,
exactly that. You know, and sometimes, it's, you know, you should dream. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, you should definitely dream. It's like, people always go, I mean, I'm not really one for 5-year plans. I don't really, I mean, if 5 years ago I was living in London, and in between that time I've cycled to Japan, I've lived in, you know, started our own business, I wouldn't have said that 5 years ago. So for me, it's a bit restrictive. I'm not saying you shouldn't have an idea of what you want, but what, you know, it's okay if it changes. You should be okay with that.
I know what you mean. Yeah, absolutely.
You shouldn't feel bad that things have changed for you, because that doesn't mean you failed. It's just like, well, I've got a better plan now.
So just to finish up, what does the future look like for Creative AF, and what do you think the big challenges that you're going to face going forward?
Right now, it's kind of establishing something in Northern Ireland, because I didn't have any clients or a Northern Ireland portfolio. So I'm kind of coming over, not blind, but I have a history and a reputation in England, but I don't have it here. So trying to develop that'll feel quite nice to me when I actually start doing work with people here, because it will feel like I actually work here rather than just live here. So that's the short term. Longer term, I have ambitions for it to be, you know, an actual team where people actually work, you know, for me, with me, you know, both. Because at the moment it's me, and then I have a really good network of freelance people that I've always known and who are very good at stuff, and I bring them in to do stuff with me. But it'd be nice to have like an actual a hub, an office with a team, because I think I'd feel very proud about that. My mum and dad used to have an advertising agency in Liverpool, and you know, they got up to about, not that it's about the number of staff, but I think their highest, they had about 30 staff. So they were really happy with that, and they said it was like some of the best times of their life. And I just feel like I'm on that path now. I don't know if that'll happen. I'm not saying that's going to happen today or tomorrow. That's probably more in a few years, but I'm working towards. It's definitely getting there.
Yeah.
And I think I'd feel really proud of having that. So that's kind of what I'm looking to do.
Sounds cool. Sounds cool. Look, I really appreciate you getting involved today. I genuinely enjoyed the conversation and finding out a bit more about what you're doing. And say thank you for taking the time to get involved.
No, it's been my pleasure. Thanks for asking me on, Scott. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Alan.